Hello and welcome to Values and Vibes. Today we're going to talk about excitement as a value. I hope that you guys are excited about this because I'm sure that this episode is not going to be boring. Stay with us if you want to find out more.
Hello and welcome to Values and Vibes. Today we're going to do something exciting because we're going to talk about excitement as a value. I'm so excited that we're going to do that. Louisa, share with us the definition of Rebellion 180.
Our definition is to enjoy thrilling and or exhilarating activities.
I think that our little Nettie probably lives for that word. I think that he needs that in his life. If there's not something exciting that is coming up, then I think could be a real drag for him. So I think that word is something that fuels people, many people in a lot of ways.
But do you think that's good or it's not like bad, but is it okay to be so excited about everything? Because when there is something boring, and you know how many things can be really boring, how you gonna behave? Because I have problem with my husband when something is boring, he's like, Milena is gonna fix that. I don't have time for that. I don't have patience for that. Like he just want to do something that is funny. And also he loves uncertainty a lot. So he's always like, because also he's a former tennis player, so he always looking for a point to see, like what is the reward for his work, and I'm doing all the job that you can see reward in 20 years probably.
Yeah, exactly. You're dotting all the I's and crossing the T's and making sure like the process is met. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what is Milena doing? No, she's free. She's just at home. No.
I think that's a good point. I think people sometimes overuse excitement, and I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but in American high school, which you guys see in the movies, there's the prom, there's the junior prom, there's the senior prom, and it's like, who's going to ask you to prom, and like, what am I going to wear to prom, and it's like the pinnacle. Like even at the prom, especially like in the Midwest where you just were, Louisa, like homecoming. Where football, Americana football is so important. You have the Friday night football games, and who's going to be the homecoming queen and get to ride around the track, around the field. I always tell my daughters, especially Victoria a lot, like I think that sometimes people who really kind of thrive on excitement, they build up events that are coming so much that all they're going to be is disappointed. Right? I think that, so I always say, don't have the junior prom syndrome, where like you are so excited and everything is about this one instance, this one night, and it's going to be the most exciting thing in my life. You're setting yourself up for, in my mind, for disappointment. So I think that's a good life. Yeah. Because then you're let down, because it's never as good as how you've like built it up in your mind.
Yeah, that passion and enthusiasm, which can drive you so much. But at the end of that, it's a bit like that law of anxiety and performance. When you hit too much, it goes straight down. But that's that stimulation. It feels like almost a value that comes out chemically in your body, like your body feels it and reacts to it.
But I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's that chemical in your brain that when you fall in love, it's like that book that Susan McDougall, the PhD at Stanford, wrote called The Upside of Stress. There's there must be excitement. I think you're right. I think it's driven by a lot of like those natural hormones in your brain.
But that's also then linked to personal interest, because like what excites me might not excite you or excite somebody else. So when you find whatever that is, each person has a different way. I don't think you can force excitement on someone. So if they're really not interested in a topic in the workplace or a certain task, it's hard to rally them to get excited about it. And if that is the whole point of their entire job and career, perhaps they're not in the right job and career if there's nothing about it that really gives them that.
Or in their personal life, I don't think excitement might be someone needs to go like paragliding or jump out of planes and parachutes, where another person would be like, it's exciting for them to have a free night by themselves so they can read a book. That seems like a quiet activity and it shouldn't be excitement. But when you're raising your kids and they're young, you're really excited to go to a hotel room and never leave it. Like just watch what's on TV and order room service and not be disturbed by anyone. That sounds like the most exciting thing in the world. Excitement doesn't necessarily have to be filled with like, woo, all, the whole time. So I think you're right. Depends on the person. It depends on the activity.
But for example, if my husband, for example, he prioritizes excitement as a value, as a prioritize 8 values, what role in a company would you recommend for him or any person who have like prioritized value? And he's like, probably he's using or too much, but what role you would suggest that he's in sales? That's not so
That's the perfect thing for him.
That's the
because
perfect
you can tell-
role.
Yeah, because you're trying to instill excitement with your buyers or like your deal. And I think for me, even as my own founder, like that's like every like sales letter or marketing letter or conversation I have with someone, even if it's like I'm like I was texting with a friend from a past life who's a lawyer and texted me the other night just to ask about how we were getting by on the storm. But I'm like, all of a sudden I'm excited. I gotta tell them like this is my model and you'd be interested. So sell it for me. So I think that like, yes, I think that if you don't naturally have that excitement and you are a founder of something, I think it's going to be hard because you have to really rally your troops, all the time. You have to inspire them. So I imagine that there are very many quiet leaders of companies, and that's okay, but you better surround yourself with some cheerleaders that have a lot of excitement going on, so
if you believe I'm writing a book and it's going to be sci-fi book, and Ned a couple of days ago he asked me what is exciting about writing a book, because for him like developing that book it's like, why you're just writing and what's the point? And I said,
yeah, because it's hard, because every sentence is hard.
No, for me it's like, honestly, I'm so excited to see who is gonna buy that book and read it.
Right.
I would speak with them like, why did you choose my book to read?
I agree. I agree. I think Victoria would say the same. I mean, now she's waiting for this agent because now she's going backwards with this film agent. And I think that's the biggest thrill seek of it all, because if you can actually get a wide appeal for something that you think is interesting, but then the rejection's that much harder, because it's like, here you think you've written it.
That's the price. That's the price.
Yeah.
Do you know any position, any more position? Everybody was asking me what would be the best role in company. Okay, sales. What else? Louisa, do you have any idea? Also industry. Also industry, like.
I don't know.
I think an innovator. I think someone like an innovator is always excited because they're thinking about what am I gonna. I think when I met Rafi, who's is one of the founding partners of the hologram company, or he's the creative founder, I forgot exactly what his title is. But I think that they're excited. They're like innovators who are changing the world, are filled with excitement, because I mean, whether people love or hate Elon Musk, I mean, he wanted to go to the moon. He went to the moon. He had to go save the astronauts. You know what I mean? He has to send up somebody like that. When you want to like, develop cars like Tesla and do those things, you are filled with excitement about your ideas and your innovation. So I really think innovators of really novel things that are created in our time, in our generation, in our lives, are filled with excitement.
I think as well scientists, because they're individuals who very much have to almost just have a feeling and an instinct about something, and then the passion for what could I create and solve. It's almost like their logic and their rationale. If you think of like Einstein, I mean, everyone said he was crazy, but actually it was probably just every time something came across his desk that was working, or Newton and all these different laws that they were able to come up with, actually it was thrilling, and it was a time in the world when they were groundbreakers, they were innovative.
Well, think about it, and scientists sometimes don't ever get even the recognition. I mean, they're kind of like a lot like artists. The scientists study some small proteins in the body that literally change like everything about a human if they don't have this protein, and probably cause severe diseases and whatnot. They're isolating tiny little things, and they're working on these things for sometimes 50 years before, so I think that there's a constant excitement that goes along with the curiosity where, and you're not getting any rewards because your little kind of goals or like things, the discoveries along the way to get to that point, I think that's a great idea, are very small and no one's saying, great job. I mean, maybe your lab partners are, and maybe inside the institution where you're studying and amidst like the walls of academia. But I mean, talk about, having to maintain excitement, and it's very quiet excitement, I imagine. You know what I mean?
I think it's very exciting because when I was reading about Nikola Tesla, and close to my building is a museum of Nikola Tesla. When you guys visit me, you're gonna love it. And when I see he didn't have a wife, he didn't have a pet, he didn't have nothing. He was so focused on his job to make electricity, to make a Wi-Fi, like to everybody can live sustainably. And I can see whatever I read about him is so exciting that he was like he didn't sleep. He was sleeping like 4 hours, per day.
Yeah.
He was so excited what he's doing and that he's gonna change. So I completely agree that innovators, I think if you have that protein, or if you have something in your mind, you should focus on that and nail it, because you cannot live without that. It's like a gamble,
exactly.
you just need to go forward.
It's true. And I think it goes back to my favorite quote from Steve Jobs is like, when you are really excited about something and focused and you are manifesting something because of your own excitement, I think that you're going to have a lot of disappointments along the way. But like Steve Jobs says, you look ahead, you take that path less traveled, and you can't connect the dots until you look backwards. You can't understand why you had this failure or that failure, or something didn't work, and then you kind of pivot a little bit and go down a different road. And I think that, to me, that's probably the hardest thing as an innovator, a creator, a scientist, or someone who's leading a new company is
they need to be persistent.
Yeah, and if you get bogged down in all the little setbacks, you're not going to make it. And then you can't connect those dots until you look backwards. Why did this happen? Why did I have this disappointment? Why did this fall apart? And then you get to that place where you've really created something amazing, and you're like, okay, well, now I see why this happened. I mean, I even see it kind of within our own company, what we're doing with Value 180. I think, well, now I feel like we've gotten to this point where we've really arrived, where like we kind of had to spend 5 years doing different things and well-being and building up the model and struggling with their large language models. And I feel like coming to a point where I always believed, and I was questioned over and over early on, that our model could be used to hire for happy, to hire talent. Not that everyone, you can't be, I mean, you can be happy and not be you can still be on antidepressants or suffer from schizophrenia. Being happy is meaning and purpose. And does that meaning and purpose kind of jive with what's going on in a company where I want to be? Is it the same ethos? And I think that was, we had to take this really circular pathway to kind of get to where those were initial conversations I had about the model, is that, initial things I did in my master's with Louisa, you know what I mean, with the happy, productive, worker hypothesis. And I think that any journey we take is filled with excitement, but more than excitement, even sometimes, or to fuel the excitement, is I guess perseverance, right? And you're going to go forward and go ahead, and because excitement quickly turns to depression when you're disappointed. You know what I mean? I don't know.
No, but it's always, if you're waiting for something, it's always more exciting than if you get it immediately. When I order something and it comes to my place, it's okay. But if I need to find a way, if I need to struggle for that, if I need to wait, like a little bit, it's sold, now I need to find another one, I need to figure out something, that's more exciting. So I think also waiting plays a really, really, really important role in excitement. Excitement is going to be bigger if it's not so close,
Yeah, I agree, because I think it's
or easy to get.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it gets filled with a lot of what you're talking about, is anticipation. And I think if everything is also, as a child, as raising your kids, I think that's the difficult thing, because if you give them everything they want all the time, there is no anticipation, and there's no ability for them to believe and dream and work towards something if everything is made so easy. So I think you're right. I think that I think as a parent, I think to be able to instill that anticipation and that work ethic, so it fuels excitement, because it's not very exciting if something just arrives to you. You just think of it and, oh, there it is. Oh, great, I have it. I mean, it's gone. Like, it's kind of like Mo Gardot in his book, Solve for Happy. when, you know, he had all the money in the world before the age of 30. And then he said by his fourth, I forgot, Lamborghini, he maybe got 10 seconds and then maybe 3 seconds of joy driving that new car. Okay, because when everything comes, so that's why he believed he had to strip down in his life and remember what was the minimum? Where was I when I really was the happiest? And now losing my son and you know, was only 21 years old and routine appendectomy. He had to get that. How do you get that excitement back? And, you know, I think one of the most interesting questions I heard him in a podcast, someone asked him, well, you've come here and you've had so much self-discovery and now you've written the formula for happiness. What would you take your son back over all of it? And he said he really struggled with that because he somehow feels like maybe his son's life was a mission in a sense, that, and then losing him, his son had all his wisdom and he said all these things before he died and no one knew he was going to die. And it gave him this, he had to find it because he was either going to die of grief but he found excitement and he found the messages in his son's life. And I think that was, so I guess what he was saying to the person who asked him that question was, maybe not, maybe I wouldn't take my son back. Maybe this is like the circle of life. It was necessary. And his life was there. So I could spread this message. I don't know. I think listening to him speak is really quite profound on these topics.
Yeah, I watched a couple of podcasts with Mogado. He's amazing, right?
He is.
You can learn a lot. And also, I found, maybe you guys know much more about, I found that when you buy something, whatever, and you're excited about something, there is like a honeymoon effect. And it's 3 hours that you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm so happy that I have this phone or this car or whatever, you know, like, and then you're adapting to that. Like, okay, I have this car.
It's a whole phenomenon when you online shop. If you put stuff into your basket and then you leave it and you come back the next day, you don't buy it because actually it was an impulse thing in the moment.
Yes, I agree. I
love it. And then if you actually take some time to think about it, you're like, do I really need another red top? No. So it's a whole thing that people go on and they do it, just kind of get it out of their system, but never actually buy anything.
Yeah, it's like the dopamine.
No, but they're explaining like honeymoon effect and then adoption to that. Okay, now I have that car. Okay, it's nice, whatever. And then it goes frustration about that. Like, okay, where I'm gonna park now? What I'm gonna do with this car? I need to change tires. I need to put some gas. I'm not sure. Do I need this car? And then it's like payment. They're coming, you know, and they're like, what?
I think excitement junkies make me think of extreme athletes, like the ones who do extreme sports, like the ultra marathoners. I think they live on some kind of dopamine rush because, I mean, honestly, who wants to run 125 miles, which whatever that is in kilometers, practically 200 kilometers. I mean, who through Death Valley, you know, through like where it's the hottest temperatures, where their shoes are melting and their organs are shutting down. I guess that person is living on real, true, maybe excitement. Like, okay, then getting, you know, this is, I think that they kind of need that. That's like they're kind of like the way they survive. I mean, I think to some ways that's using value, you know, some values like excitement possibly to the negative, because I also think that their life becomes so much about their race, their run, their training, that I think that oftentimes when you're around some people like that, it comes at the expense, like we talk about, right? Like that's why sometimes people who sit heavy in openness can sometimes appear a little bit like selfish because of their excitement, their change to novelty comes at the expense of others. And it comes at the expense of oftentimes their families, time they're spending with their children. I mean, they got to get that 50-mile run in. If that means they're missing their child's theater performance, they're missing their child's theater performance. So like any other value, there's got to be some moderation that comes with excitement.
But all values, they need to be like in balance. You cannot
exactly right. They all have they all can be, you know, they all need to be honed in certain ways when we happen to use them to an extreme in our lives, you know.
Well, my last question would be, what you find exciting about Revalue 180, because we work in the same company, and I was thinking because obviously it's exciting to talk about values and to have podcasts and talk about that in 52 episodes.
Exactly.
But really, like, what do you find really, really, really exciting about changing the world or educate them about values? You know, like, what is exciting about it?
Well, you guys go first.
Okay, Louisa, I'm gonna give you the stick.
The most I take it. The most exciting thing about working for Evaluate and just generally the model for me is when I am connecting the dots of someone's report and it has been able to pinpoint a specific value or something in someone's life that just makes so much sense once all those small pieces of the model have come together, because there's so many layers to it. And then you deliver that to someone and they have an aha moment. That's when I get the chemical thrill, because I just think, God, this works so well. How the hell does it work so well? But incredibly, to be able to, for me to know it so well and put those pieces together makes me excited, and to help
And
people.
and honestly, people feel that. I mean, when you get comments from people who use our model who say that Louisa is a star, exclamation point, from people, very, very intelligent people in their own fields. I mean, I think that's true, and that's a credit to you as well, because you have that excitement about things. What about you, Milena?
I have to stay humble.
Yeah. Well, in some way, yes, but not being humble sometimes, and being in your role when you're advising people, you have to have, like, you have to temper humility, because you have to be able to come up and be, and you have to say the model, you have to be confident that the model is telling you this, and you should be, trying to do this in your life. So I see why in a role like yours, an advisory position, that you can't always be so humble.
Yeah. But the model itself is so exciting. When it pieces together, that's when I get my scientist moment. Although I'm not finding a cure for cancer, I'm helping someone take a step in the right direction with their mental well-being. And that makes me excited.
I agree.
For me, it's exciting because I'm doing a lot of research, and I found that every company on this world, they're writing their values and mission, and they're just writing that. For me, that's my thought. Like, I think it's just, it should look nice if I put that on my website.
Right, but what does it even mean?
Like, is it your real value, or like, did you just sit and think about that? Like, this sounds really good. We could use this value, And then, or it's like a brand, like somebody who is making brand for them. So just building that. So I think because I feel like a pioneer with Relevant, like talking about like a company who is talking about values that you can not even touch it, like there is not measurement still. I love that being part of something that it's so brand new, and that we are really educating people that you don't know that this is your direction. You're following that with your inner self, and you're not even conscious. You don't have any conscious about that it's so important for you, because everybody go to gym, everybody's taking care of what they eat, the skincare, everybody's beautiful and everything, but I think they put on the side values. And I think it's going to help a lot of people to find the really right direction when choosing partners, choosing job positions, companies, industries, which college they should choose, So for me, like, whenever I ask me somebody, like, what do you do? Like, values? What? Like, who's doing that? And I think in 5-10 years, I'm gonna film this. This is the we mentioned, and I'm gonna tell, like, we did that. What? Like, sorry, we have already like 60 episodes about that. Like, it's all news for us, So I love that we are first in that. For me, that's my scientist method.
I guess for me, I think I was always looking for what was the way that I could express why I think certain people live with a sense of contentment in their lives and why others do not. And I felt always, and Milena, I've talked a lot about this, just coming from like kind of a war-torn background in Serbia, that I think that I really always, it was excited me to wonder whether or not people needed to suffer, right, in order to really understand what values mean and what values aren't. I don't think I think suffering is measurable in many different ways, and you can't compare. It's all relative, one person suffering to another. But I think that to find something that would translate to everybody and be able to get to people maybe before they have to really suffer a true hardship. So they can maybe find, so more joy, more contentment, find an environment where, like they say, it wouldn't be called work if we didn't get paid. So it's not like it's always going to be, sunshine and, candy canes. But I do believe that it's about kind of, I wanted to find an educated, smart way for people to find that meaning and purpose in life and find those meaningful positions, and for employers to make work environments to really make them a place where people felt like they had that psychological safety. And if they didn't, let's institute a tool so that we can get there, and a tool that everyone can relate to, a tool that is not so complicated that an 11-year-old who's done the model Dominique in our building, or an 85-year-old George also in the building, couldn't relate to. So something that kind of could bring us all together so we could figure out what's important to us and why we're not getting there, and how do we work with each other to help each other on that journey, I guess is what excited me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, girls. Thank you, Louisa. Thank you, Tia. This was really that was a really exciting episode.
Great.
We need to finish, but next value next week. So thank you for watching us. And
one last thing, I think that the reason that excitement exists the most in Reevaluate 180 is because of people like you guys who've really dedicated your energy and your time. No, truly, because
persistent and persistent.
Yeah, persistent, and just to be able to create that energy and excitement in a group who really believe, then it means we're going to make it.
Yeah,
People,
because you created something that works and is going to boost the well-being in the workplace.
We've all created it. I mean, I created the base of it, but it works because we're all part of it. And humility at its center is each little piece is what makes it work. It's not just,
But also, Tia, honestly, admit we share so many similar values. It's so easy to work when you have similar values.
Right. And that's what we need to do for companies. That's why people need to start, hiring talent and selecting people who have those shared values. And not everyone's going to be the same. And then, and even more important, I never thought we'd get here. We always talked about, with Louisa, especially like in reports, what are those blockers doing so we're not reaching certain values? And what we've really found with now turning the model inside out is, okay, we have these unconscious biases, but how do we make ourselves better, knowing that we're not always going to be able to correct for them? How do we hone those things? It was like turned our model inside out. And I think all of this stuff is just exciting,
Very,
really.
very.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.